Okay, good morning and welcome to the October Mayor and City Manager Press Conference. This morning we also have with us our City Attorney Amanda Stanley joining us for some portions of the press conference to answer any questions you might have. I want to start off with this morning just revisiting a presentation that we had at the last council from the Mayor's Task Force Against Domestic Violence. Again, I wanted to bring attention to that effort by that very collaborative group and organization to address those things that seem to stay with us as much as we try to work to provide the resources and support for those families who are afflicted by that ongoing issue. Many times some of the violent crime that we see in our city of Topeka are the end result of some domestic violence that ends up taking it out into the community outside of the home. So I ask everybody to remember that at the presentation, they were asked if they had enough members, and Becca Spielman, who is the program director there, encouraged anyone who wants to become a volunteer or provide assistance and support for that effort that just contact her, and she'd be more than glad to include them in that collaborative. She does have an email that you could use to contact her, and it's Becca, BECCASE at ywca.nekansas.org, and or you can look them up on their website. But I encourage everyone to give some more thought to that. Domestic violence is something that we don't hear about enough, to think about how we can help in some way to support the efforts to curb that. We do have a holiday coming up. Halloween safety is something I want to talk to. There are a lot of trunk or treats going on in the city. Some of them hosted by the police department and be down at the LEC and throughout the city. I think it's prudent for parents to consider that a real option for their kids while they're out there trick-or-treating. Cold weather, it could be wet weather. There's always the issue about traffic safety. So I encourage everyone to give some thought to that, of taking advantage of those that have been organized on behalf of the community to keep our youth safe. There was one thing I forgot to put on this morning when I left the house, and that was to put my I voted sticker on my lapel. I wanted to make sure this is yet another opportunity to encourage people to vote, and if they can, vote early. When I got there with my wife, it was packed. I mean, there was a line leading out the door, and when I asked the workers there, they said it had been that way since they opened, even during the heavy rain that we had. So that's very encouraging. The numbers that we saw grow at the last election in August, I think are returning, and I think that's an encouragement. The more people take advantage of that basic right and responsibility of voting, the better off the city, county, and country is. So I encourage everyone, if you haven't already made a plan to vote, if you need a ride, contact your friends, relatives, get yourself there and take that opportunity in a very small way, but counts in a big way when they all put together all the opinions that are expressed on that ballot. So I encourage everyone again to vote. There's something that I know that city manager is going to speak to, as well as our city attorney, and that's been in the news about council member Mike Lesser. And for that, I'll turn that over to city manager. City manager?
Mr. Mayor, I know that you and I both absolutely think the world of Councilman Lesser, and very appreciative of his service to the city. His resignation is effective Monday night, going into November 1st. So he'll be missed. Amanda, I know that you've been doing some research as far as what the next steps are as far as replacing that position.
Sure. Our city charter and our municipal code spell out exactly how that process works. So it is a very familiar process to us in the city. It goes back a long time. And so when that happens, the seat is filled by an election of the majority of our governing body. There's some pretty strict timelines, so if you're interested in filling the seat, be sure to pay attention quickly. With an effective date of November 1st, we will publish notice in the Metro News on November 7th. There's 2 weeks to apply, so if you're interested in this position, the application will ask you things like, what do you think the biggest issue in Topeka is? Why do you want to serve? The deadline for applications will be November 21st. And then there will be interviews at the December 6th City Council meeting. Each governing body member gets to ask one question, so there will be 9 different questions answered. And then at the conclusion of that meeting, the governing body can choose to vote that night, or they will vote the following week. And then that is a ballot vote system, where ultimately you need a majority, so 5 of 9 votes, to be elected into the seat.
A question I might have, on the applications, do they go back to the city clerk or?
They do, so the application will tell you how it needs to be submitted, but our city clerk will handle all of that.
Okay, good, well, thank you. I want to follow up a little bit on the city manager's comments about Mr. Lesser. He joined the council when I did, almost 5 years ago. And so over that 5 years, he and I have become very good friends. He and I joke a lot back and forth, but Mike took that job very seriously. I think he spent a lot of time thinking about his decisions that he made as a council member, and I appreciate that. I believe he represented his constituents very well. In whole, I believe he has always wanted to serve the city as best he can. He's a colorful man. He's a lot of fun to be around, and I will miss him on the council, but I know we will maintain that friendship that was developed during that time. So I wish Mike the best in whatever he pursues. I know he's a very successful businessman, and he knows what he's doing. He usually knows what he's talking about when it comes to finances and planning and organization. So I just want to thank him publicly for his service to the city of Topeka. Is there any other topic that you would like to address, City Manager?
Actually, I'd like to bring up one that's, I know, very near and dear, if I could say that, to both you and me. We have posted a position of Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer, and I know the mayor's talked about it many times. Those applications, Mr. Mayor, will close on October 31.
Okay.
The candidate pool right now is, we've been very pleased with the response rate, and so we'll start working through that process after the 31st. Hopefully we'll have some decision shortly, not too far after that. You've seen some announcements here recently. We have Braxton Copley's taken over as Public Works Director. Sylvia Davis is taking the helm in utilities. And we'll also have Rhiannon Freeman joining us here in a couple weeks. So excited about some of the changes that are happening here at the city. There's a couple opportunities for the public on November 3 and November 7. There will be some public input sessions for our consolidated action plan. That plan it's part of our grants management program. We do this on an annualized basis, but there'll be some opportunities there, more information to come with that. And Mr. Mayor, with that, I don't think I've got anything specific.
Okay, well, I'll just follow up a little bit on the DEI position. I think it's important to note that this is the first time that I can remember this position has been created for the city of Topeka. I think it's a step in the right direction. It is very much a priority for myself and the city manager. This is a position to be taken seriously. It's not a position to just fill an office. We want our efforts to be real, meaningful, and impact the community in a positive way. So everything or any ideas that you can bring to the city manager or myself about how we can integrate the work of the DEI officer will be welcomed. And that's the whole point of it, is that everyone has a voice and are able to communicate to the governing body so that we can really look closely at how we serve the citizens of the city of Topeka. So give this position the opportunity to succeed. It won't happen overnight. It's hard work. Everyone that we've talked to in preparing for this has cautioned us that it is hard work. You need to have a very strong individual in that place. You need to have support from the very top to the very bottom for the efforts that will attempt through that office. So again, I encourage people to give us their opinions, give us your suggestions, and give us your support. I was going to ask one more question of the city attorney, and it had to do with, again, the selection process, but I think you covered it after I give it a second thought. So I think we are done as far as any specific topics that we want to address, and so we're here for any questions you might have.
Question here about Councilman Lesser. Were you guys surprised when he resigned from his role, from his seat?
I would tell you that I think Councilman Lesser has took this very seriously. I was surprised when he came in, but at the same point in time, I know that he's spent a lot of time thinking this through.
Piggybacking off of that, can you kind of explain, if you have an explanation, of the timing of Councilman Lesser leaving in relation to the hiring of the city manager?
I don't think there's any correlation that I am aware of. In advance of hiring the city manager, there was no indication, at least to me, that Councilman Lesser would resign from his seat. So I don't think there's any correlation whatsoever unless
No,
there's something you want to share.
I'm not aware of it.
No.
Could you give us an update on redistricting?
I'll leave that to the city manager.
I believe we have it coming forth on agenda.
The
Nope.
first meeting in November, it will be voted on.
Thank you very
So
much.
everything is in process. So that'll be voted on the first meeting in November, and the new council districts will take effect January 1st.
At that point, Amanda, as all things come to the council, oftentimes someone wants to make an amendment and a change. Is that possible in this process, or is this our final decision?
Like any ordinance, it could be amended at that meeting in November. City council members or the mayor could bring an amendment at that time.
Okay. I think that might answer some questions that some of the citizens might have of, do I have any choice in where I end up in the district?
Maybe a question kind of in the same vein of just city management and kind of the department heads. We've seen a few of those positions kind of change recently. Are there any outlooks or any kind of, do you anticipate any more of those positions to become open, any more department head changes?
Well, I can tell you right now, we're actively trying to find a finance director. I guess I need to backfill my spot. So I hope that we have an announcement to make with that one. We are recruiting for an individual in IT to help drive our infrastructure on there. But beyond that, I'm not sure what there would be.
Is there any progress in either one of those two searches?
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously aggressively trying to recruit there. We've seen some interest on the finance side, and we're exploring some options on the IT side also.
Is it internal interest or external? Like if people already work for the city that are more interested in it?
I think there's always interest internal, and you hope to generate interest external also.
Kind of jumping around here a little bit more. The district question kind of aligned with I want to move down to the kind of the economic side of things, and obviously inflation and everything we're hearing about all the time. How is that impacting the city's budget?
Well, we have the budget passed for 2023. We're optimistic about how things are looking for 23. I think I've publicly stated to the governing body that when we're looking at 2024 and 2025, there's a little more concern just because of the unknowns with the economy. But we're also taking some steps internally to make sure that we're prepared for that.
Would one of those steps like include city projects? Like I'm talking more about like infrastructure, roads, of course, being a big question around here. Have you seen any impacts on construction costs in terms of?
Well, construction costs are up, and we have started our CIP process, which is our capital process for the year. We've started that process now. That will be for the year 2024. But you know, as is everybody seeing, costs are going up.
To kind of follow up on that, to give credit to the city manager when he was acting as our finance director, we talked, at least a couple of years back at least, about projected finances and challenges that the city may encounter in the coming years. And so we've tried to be fiscally conservative, but at the same time meet those obligations that we know have to be met. You mentioned roads. That's something that just can't be ignored. So in order to do that, you trim where you can and still meet that primary need in the city. But I think we've really seen some results from this outcome-based budgeting process that was initiated, last year or 2 years ago? 1 year ago. And it's giving us a better picture, I think, of where the city will stand, and we'll continue to do that.
What is your take on the recent survey showing the public's concerns about the number of vacant homes in the city? And what do you expect will happen with that from tonight's meeting?
No meeting tonight.
No meeting tonight, yeah.
And I guess maybe you could clarify the question a little bit.
So in a recent survey that the city offered, a bunch of the numbers state that a lot of the citizens in Topeka are worried about the number of vacant homes in the city. What is your response to that?
Well, some of that is being addressed through the efforts made by Councilwoman Valdivia-Alcala and Hiller with regards to the code enforcement and moving forward with how we address those kinds of properties that are vacant, uncared for, have out-of-state ownership to, have trouble identifying owners to. So there is a portion of that effort that I think will help us better inventory what we have and find the quickest, most long-lasting solution to some of these properties. Some of them have been there well before I came into office, I know that. And that's unacceptable. But we have a very, very strong property rights state, and we want to make sure that we don't overstep our role in trying to take care of those properties. But that is something that is a priority for us.
And how are you guys handling the police staffing shortages with 14 officers on administrative leave?
So obviously Chief Willis and his command staff have worked very closely with the FOP to make sure that we have the officers on the streets that we need. Officers have been very flexible with their scheduling, and we're working through the process.
And what does it mean when those officers are on administrative leave? What exactly are they doing? Are they able to work behind a desk, or are they just not able to work?
Right now, they're not working.
Do you know whenever they will be anticipated to return?
We have some officers that we hope to get back soon, but you know, we have a process that we have to go through. So.
You know, the chief's been really good about aligning his staff to the high priorities. He and I work together at the police department, and he knows that the basic needs of the city need to be the top priority. Some of the things that we might like to have in the interim that takes additional staffing may take a back seat. But the priority of the city, of protecting the city, is where he's going to put his staff and his focus. So the citizens can feel confident that as far as that goes, they're not going to experience a shortage of officers in the field.
And then, switching gears again, KDOT just announced last week that they are low on snowplow drivers, and I'm just wondering, is there any effect of that at the city level?
So I can tell you that yesterday we had our dry run for snow season. Got a chance to meet with those crews yesterday. We're not concerned about shortages there for snow season.
And will you be hitting, what exactly is your plan for clearing the roads? Will you be hitting more main streets, or will you be going into those neighborhoods as well?
I think we'll probably talk about the snow efforts at a later point in time.
Mr. Charles got a good handle on it.
He does.
They changed their system about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and they really did a better job of deploying their staff so they were more effective in the areas that they covered. And now that we have Scoop Dog on scene, we're going to be able to run right through that with no problem. But no, I went down there last year and took a ride with them. And believe me, the confidence that the drivers have in the plan that they were using is felt by everyone. They think they are doing a better job. They feel they are more efficient in clearing the roads, so I'm confident we'll be ready for them.
You guys, I know last year they were kind of in the same vein. Last year they were talking about kind of shortages and a little higher cost in the snow removal supply, the chemical and the salt and sand. Have you guys budgeted for a raised cost on the stuff you guys will need for snow stuff?
We budgeted for supply costs increases across the board. Certainly, salt and sand are one of those items.
Mayor, as one of the people who will be choosing the new District 9 council person, what are some of the things you're looking for in candidates?
For me, it's someone who just didn't wake up one day and decide they want to be a council person. I'm looking for someone who has shown me already that they've been involved in the community, have been engaged in activities that support either private organizations or city efforts to make the city better, because that shows me their commitment to the success of the city. I'm looking for somebody who is willing to be a team player and not come to the council with one specific agenda, but come to the council as someone who wants to help what we already have going on. There are a lot of efforts and initiatives that we have in the background that are working, and that person needs to be brought up to speed, be willing to put in the time. People say about the council job is it's a part-time job. It's a full-time job. You have a lot of reading to do, a lot of engagement you need to do in order to be confident in how you're voting. And you have to be present. You have to be in that seat and ready to do the job. And that's the kind of person I'm looking for.
We have one more question here from, someone sent us in a concern, I guess, they had about all the post offices they understand are closing. You may not know about this. But Topeka, we're losing the Gage Post Office and the North Topeka Post Office. We're also talking about Rossville, Auburn, and Maple Hill Post Office is closing. Means people could be losing their jobs, is all it is. Any comments as far as that's concerned?
I don't know, the city manager, if you have a comment on it. I know that at least the plans that I understand for the post office that we have downtown, even though it's been purchased, that there are plans to keep that post office open and operating.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing I would add to that is there are lots of employment opportunities in our community right now. We're looking for hardworking folks that will do the job. So there's lots of opportunities right now.
Further questions? None? Well, I appreciate you all being here today and asking the questions that you did. And anytime there's any follow-up questions that you didn't think of until you walked out the door, call the city manager or my office. We'll be glad to visit with you. Thank you again.